You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account. From Apple to VIX and everything in between, if it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report. And now, get ready to scan the tape for the most explosive options activity on the street. It's time for the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time for the Hot Options Report for Tuesday, September 30th. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you folks are listening these days. Remember, if you're not listening to the full network wherever you're getting this show, you're missing out on over a dozen other shows. And, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. Now, if you're listening to this show, chances are that you're pretty serious about options trading. So let me put something on your radar. Public. It's the most cost-effective way to trade options. That's because Public is the only platform that gives you rebates on your options trades. They also have some of the industry's lowest index options fees, whether you're placing single leg or complex multi-leg trades. Every dollar counts. Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Again, the Hot Options Report brought to you by Public. Full disclosures in the podcast description. All right, let's get down to business for your Hot Options Report for Tuesday, September 30th, listeners. Let's kick it off in the land of VIX. Was it a hot day out there in VIX land? Well, volume-wise, the answer was no. VIX continuing its trend of not really putting up impressive volume numbers post-Fed. Closing today a little bit north of 16 and a quarter. Out there, of course, everyone waiting to see what's going on with the government shutdown, what that will do to volatility, of course. So hanging out a little bit north of 16 and a quarter today. 431,000 contracts on the tape. That's a little north of half of the ADV, which is exactly 800,000 right now. The hot option out there today in VIX land, 37,000 of the October 15 puts. Again, this 15 put strike. People seem to be obsessed with it every month for the last few months. If you're wondering what these cost, about 14 cents. So it's up to you whether you think the 15 puts for 14 cents are a good trade. As we keep on rolling out to SPY. SPY closing today, 668.18, rallying nearly 0.4%, even into the prospect of a potential government shutdown. Putting up some numbers out there as well today, 9.4 million contracts changing hands against an ADV of 8.2 million out there in the hot option. On a pretty hot day, 555,000 of the 663 calls going up for an average price of about 94 cents. So it looks like if you scoop some of those up for around that average price and you rode them into the close, you probably had a decent day as we keep on rolling out to the SPX listeners. The S closing today, 66.8846, rallying about 0.4% out there today as well. Putting up nearly 5 million contracts, 4.9 million contracts in the S today. So that's a pretty hot day. The ADV is only around 4.2 million. The hot option on a pretty hot day, 167,000 of these 6680s. Average price for these bad boys, $2.58. So you know the drill. If you bought these around that average price and you rode them through the close, you probably had a decent day out there, listeners, as we keep on rolling out to small caps, listeners. Small caps putting up decent numbers, but not quite hitting that inflated ADV, which is a little bit north of 1.5 million contracts a day right now, putting up nearly 1.25 million contracts today. So still a pretty active day. Small caps going out 241.96 today, listeners, gaining about 0.15% out there. And the hot option on a decently hot day, about 100,000 exactly of the 242 calls expiring today. So just just within spitting distance for those bad boys. Average price for those around 22 cents. So unfortunately, if you bought them around that average price and rode them into the close, not looking great as we keep on rolling out to the Qs. Listeners, was it a hot day in the Qs? The answer was it was decent, pretty close to the ADV. The ADV is about 4.3 million and putting up a nearly 4.2 million contracts out there in the Qs today, listeners. So within spitting distance of its ADV. The Qs closing 637, up about 0.25% today. So a nice little rally out there in the Qs as well. And the hot option on a decently hot day out there, it was the 597 puts going up 291,000 times. Average price for these about 75 cents. So you know the drill. You bought these around that average price and you rode them through the close. Not great. And on the flip side, if you sold them, you had to grit your teeth and bear it a little bit, but you ended up doing pretty well on the trade. Were the single name equity options doing well today? The answer was it was decent, but not blowing the doors off. We're kicking it off. We haven't seen the fruit company down this low in a while. Number 10, Apple, 508,000 contracts, listeners. The fruit company kind of unched today. 254.63 is where the stock closed. The hot option out there today, 52,000 of the 260 calls expiring this Friday, listeners. The average price for these is about 61 cents. So again, 260, 61 cents. Seems like a heck of a move. We got as high as almost 256 today, 255.92. So maybe that makes those seem a little bit more palatable to you. Can we get there by Friday? We will find out as we keep on rolling to number 9, listeners. It's our old pal Open. We could have our own show. Just where did Open close today, listeners? Today, it closed $7.97, off about 0.25 or nearly 3%, putting up 576,000 contracts. And the hot option out there today, listeners, 66,000 of the 9 calls. Average price for these, about 23 cents. So once again, over $1 out of the money, and yet out of the money calls still going up for, again, 23 cents. Not the most expensive option on the docket. So it's up to you whether you think that's worth a roll of the dice or whether you're saying sold to you. Open, $7.97. At the number 9 spot, number 8, listeners, it's our old pal Intel. Intel closing today, $33.55, off nearly $1 or almost 3%, putting up 628,000 contracts today, listeners. For the number 8 spot, the hot option out there today, nearly 50,000 of the 40 calls expiring, actually not this week, but the monthly October 40 calls. Bit of a departure there. These going up for an average price of about 50 cents. 40s, 50 cents, October expiration, listeners. Can we get there? If you think yes, maybe you like these. Either way, a number 8, Intel. Let's keep on rolling to number 7, listeners. It's our old pal SoFi, putting up 658,000 contracts. SoFi closing 26.42, off about $1.13 or a little over 4% today. And the hot option out there, no surprise, it's some puts. 29,000 of the 24 half puts expiring at the end of this week. Average price for these, 15 cents, a nearly $2 out of the money put. So if you're buying these, listeners, you obviously need SoFi to fall out of bed by the end of the week, but perhaps you think that's a deal. Either way, number 7, SoFi. Let's keep on rolling to number 6. It's our old pal, the Amazonians, listeners, 675,000 contracts. Amazon also selling off today, about 260, a little over 1%, closing 219.57 today, listeners. Again, putting up 675,000 contracts. The hot option out there, 45,000 almost exactly of the 225 calls expiring this Friday. 83 cents was the average price. Again, 225s by the end of the week, 83 cents, listeners. Can we get there? The high was 222.25 this morning, listeners. So maybe that makes those seem a little bit more palatable. Right now, obviously, looks like a decent climb, but we've seen Amazon do that in the past. As we keep on rolling to the number 5 spot, it's our old pal CoreWeave making a return appearance. CoreWeave, 136.85. You know when CoreWeave's in the top 10, it's probably popping pretty hard or falling off pretty hard. Today, it's the former, rallying $14.33 or nearly 12% to close 136.85 out there, listeners. CoreWeave putting up 678,000 contracts today for the number 5 spot. The hot option out there, 57,000 of the 140s expiring this Friday. Average price nearly $5, $2.85. Not surprising, it's nearly a 90 volatility. These are pretty juicy options for obvious reasons. Now you might say that's insane, but then again, the stock did get as high as 142.67, so that makes those 140s perhaps look a little bit more palatable to you. Either way, CoreWeave, number 5. Number 4, I haven't talked about this name in a little while, listeners. It's our old pal Robinhood making a return appearance in our top 10 today, listeners. 143.18, up about $6.50, listeners, or 4.75%, putting up nearly 720,000 contracts today. So a hot day for them. Looks like the prediction markets looking strong for Robinhood out there right now, listeners. And what was the hot option on a hot day in Robinhood today, listeners? 35,000 of the 145s. Average price for these, $2.10. Got as high as 143.62, so they were within spitting distance. Can we get there by the end of this week? Well, we've seen Robinhood move quite a bit of late, so that could potentially be in the cards. Either way, number 4, Robinhood, listeners. Let's keep on rolling out to number 3. Not a usual name we cite in the top 10. It's Pfizer. Closing today right around $25.50, up about $1.63, or nearly 7% today. Putting up 1.16 million contracts out there. So a hot day in Pfizer. What was the hot option on a hot day, listeners? Nearly 157,000 of the 25 calls. Average price for these, 27 cents. So you're already looking good on these. Stock closing nearly 25.5. So you pretty much doubled your money already, listeners, if you bought these around that average price today. So a good day for you. Pfizer popping hard out there today, listeners. As we keep on rolling to number 2, listeners, it's Tesla, putting up 1.6 million contracts. So actually a light day for Tesla. Tesla closing today, 444.72, up about $1.50 or about 1/3%. So not the wildest day in Tesla history. That said, it did get as low as 433.12. So had a bit of a range out there today, listeners. The hot option out there today, listeners, bit of a weird one. 110,000 of the 960 calls. Yes, 960s. That in and of itself is strange, but then these are June of 2026 960s, listeners. Again, 110,000 of these. That struck us as a little odd, so we did a little bit of digging. Looks like these were opened back in February of this year when the stock was around $290 to $300. The average price for these at the time was $8.66. So had a little bit of a run in the stock since then. Just goes to show you, you don't need to get all the way there to actually make some money on these far out of the money calls, listeners. By the way, it looks like these were being closed today, listeners. Average price for these today, about nearly $14, $13.95. Worth noting, the 950s also trading. So it looks like there was a 950, 960. Vertical, stupid, call it what you will out there. At that point, it's so far out of the money. They're kind of synonymous, but either way. 950s and 960s in June. Taking the top spot today. Looks like somebody taking those off in Tesla. As we keep on rolling to the number 1 offender out there today, listeners, it's Nvidia. 3.62 million contracts on the tape, hitting a new all-time high out there in Nvidia today, listeners. So Nvidia folks, smile on their face, rallying 4.75 or over 2.5%. Closing today, 186.58 out there, listeners. What was the hot option on a hot day in Nvidia? 350,000 of the 185 calls. Again, average price for these, $2.65. They obviously closed in the money, so they're looking pretty good on these already, listeners. All right, that's going to do it for your hot options report for Tuesday, September 30th. Hope you're having a good trading week out there. Remember, if you're not listening to the full network, you are missing out. Make sure you're subscribed to the Options Insider Radio Network, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, if you're ready to pull the trigger, go above and beyond. Join us on the Pro. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. We'll see you back here for the rest of our content coming at you tomorrow until we're back again after the closing bell with another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.